Guys, Vandy back with another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoyed them. Like, comment, subscribe, bell, subscribe. This time we are covering DZ Set 3 for the first time with Dragon Empire Kotihblaze. So DZ Set 3 is about to release, and obviously I do my deck profiles a few weeks in advance. This is the first time I've done a deck profile in a few months, and honestly I was kind of hesitant to do all these deck profiles, but then I kind of, just decided I was going to do them, and honestly the fact that there's a lot less than what I thought there was makes this a lot easier. I'm also now starting to hear what people mean by I talk fast, because I just watched the clock go as I said all of that. Either way though, this deck is very interesting. I'll admit when it first got released, I was like a little bit hesitant of it, because the way it played felt so convoluted, but at least in the last match where I played with it, it felt like really smooth and transition. Like I could kind of figure out how to do everything on my own. So let's go ahead and start, shall we see what we got, because honestly this deck is actually very fun to play, and especially once you figure out how to use it. First up today, we have our energy generator. It's our ride deck crest that every deck has now. You may only have one ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you would ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you want second energy charge 3, continuous may have up to 10 energies, and auto beginning of your ride phase, energy charge 3, and then add once per turn energy blast 7 to draw a card. All around pretty solid. You know, you get a free 3 energy every turn. If you want second, you get that extra energy charge, which could be very helpful in early game rush status, and then also the once per turn draw a card. This deck does not use up energy at all outside of one other card, so being able to basically always draw off that skill if needed is definitely really helpful. So I like the energy generator a lot. So that's our ride deck crest. Then we have our ride line. We have Divine Blaze, or not a ride line, the grade 0, and that's Divine Blaze Eye and Rui. Grade 0 boost 5k, shows the base, all remote pumps and draw card. Standard starter, enough spotted. You can really run any starter you want. None of the ride line requires this. I will say this though. I'm very disappointed with how the Kotihblaze line turned out, because the grade 0, 1, and 2, and this is the only time I'm ever going to care about this, but the grade 0, 1, and 2 were all drawn by the same person. And they all look really cool to me. And then the grade 3 was drawn by a different person, and that's just the one that looks lackluster to me. Like, don't get me wrong, it still looks cool, but I really like the style of the grade 1, like 0 through 2, and I wish they just kept the same guy for the grade 3, but it is what it is. Either way, though, Enra is a nice starter. You can choose to run it, you can choose not to run it, but I'm gonna run it for the aesthetic, if nothing else, so one of. Then we have our trigger, so from Over Trigger and Dragon Deity, King of Resurgence, Drag Veda. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Over Trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move the card, draw a card, choose one of these. It gets with the middle of the turn, and if you revealed it during your draft check, activate. It's a just fact, would you get to choose one of your vanguards and stand it all around pretty solid. You get a draw, you get a million, whether you damage check or draft check it. Then if you drove check it, you get an extra vanguard attack. And considering the vanguard is not a once per turn on either of his part of the ability that allows for multi attack, this thing could technically lead to what, 5, 7? I think it's, no, they could either lead to 8 attacks, or hell, maybe even 9, question mark, if you play it right. So all around Drag Veda is a very solid over trigger. You can choose to run Walnut for more consistent multi-attack, or you could choose to run Asphoria for recycling, but I do, or the new over triggers, which are really good, especially the heal one, but I prefer to run the nation over triggers in the respective nations, so one of Drag Veda. Then we have our normal triggers. So if you watch all the deck profiles for set 3, you're gonna see a trend where I did this a lot, because I really wanted to use front triggers after like so long of not using front triggers. So almost all of my set 3 decks have 2 front triggers just because I wanted them, and weirdly enough, believe it or not, the front triggers have been winning me games off of like situations where I either need specifically fronts to defend my units, or I need 10k to everyone to break through guards, and lo and behold, the fronts are always there. Either way though, we run 2 fronts and 2 flare, 2 fronts and plays made in Parama, and 2 draw triggers in Flare Veil Dragon. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base for Flare Veil. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k base for Parama. Both of them have the same skill where continuous guards or opponents vanguards are grade 3 or greater. They both get 5 shield. You know, Flare Veil's a 10k, Parama's a 20k. They're both really nice. Parama helps add numbers to the front row, both defensively and offensively, so you can push through guards. And in a multi-attack deck, that's very important. Or again, protect your rear guards. And again, in a multi-attack deck, that's very important. And then also the draw trigger helps increase the hand to draw more pieces. And considering this deck requires you to have the same cards on your board / hand instead of cards in your soul, Flare Veil is definitely nice for help recycling that. So we have 2 here. Then we have 3 copies of Rogue Beast Sunagosuri. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standard crit, non-spotted. You can really run any crit here. I just make the Sunagosuri because it came out closer to the time of, what was the name, Kotihblaze's release, so I might as well make it this crit. Also just find her cute. Her, they, them, whatever, it, cute. And then we have 4 Burning Flow Dragon, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k power, auto rear guard, at the end of the battle that it boosted, shove it to soul, choose roots, you can do K for the turn. Okay, cool. It is a alternate option if things go to shit. you use Burning Flail, increase your soul for 1 turn, and then the next turn you blast it out to get a restand target. You don't do that intentionally unless you actively have to because you bricked with all triggers, which is a possibility. So we run 7 crits for, you know, restanding Vanguard pressure, also restanding rearguard pressure. Of course, the fronts are here for that too. Then we have 4 copies of Refreshing Wind Dragon, Dino Breeze, Great Zone Boost, Finnegan Shield, 5k power. This can really be any heal you want. I just choose to make a Dino Breeze because, again, same like Stone Ghost City, closer to the time of release. You can make it the counter heals if you want to. I don't like the counter heals too much because I feel like they're fluctuating 10 to 25k shield is a little too situational. Even though a lot of decks fall under their fluctuating shield, I would rather have like the consistent 15k overall because like what if I need to guard before they start entering those situations where the shield would actually increase. So 4 of Dino Breeze. Then we move on to our grade 1s. 3 copies of the card I did not think would be as useful as it was, even though I've only used it like twice. Those 2 times were actually really important. Twin Strike of Duststorm Orlando. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, act, soul. If your opponent's rearguard was killed this turn, counter plus 1 calls off the rear, and then auto rearguard when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard attack, show up the soul shield and rearguard, it gives 5,000 power for that turn. Okay, this grade 1 I put in here because there's extra space. Most of the time, whenever there's a deck that has an obvious theme and has like name restrictions, if I have a card that is not related to them, it's probably because I had extra space. I did not expect Orlando to be this useful. The 2 times I've used Orlando, one time, I had 2 of them in a column, I could send 1 to Soul, and because Kotihblaze over here restand effect activates at the end of the battle, I basically was able to restand the one in the front row for numbers, but then B, it can call itself back. Which, granted, only procs if you retire something. In a deck that doesn't really have a main grade 3 that retires, you wouldn't think that would happen that often. Well, look at this guy. That aside, though, Orlando's been very useful, getting itself to soul and calling itself back, and basically being a restand target for the Vanguard, and also making the Vanguard an 18k swinger, which is nice for pressure. So all around, Orlando is a very solid grade 1. I do like it a lot, so it's a good 3-0 for me. Then we have 4 copies of the thing I will literally never use the skill of, not because I hate it, just because I forget it when it would be useful, and then I just never want to use its first ability out of like fear it's going to screw me over, and that is Fire Pole Emperor Daijura. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, act rearguard once per turn. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Kotihblaze in its card name, rest this unit, choose an army without Sentinel from your drop zone, bot deck it, and then choose one of your units with the same card name as the chosen card by this effect, and it gets 5,000 power for that turn. Okay, cool. If you have the same copy of that card in Soul, this is a way to loop back copies that you Soul Blasted last turn, and it's also a way to give more numbers to something that's going to multi-attack this turn. And then the other effect is auto rearguard when your grade 3 greater Vanguard Kotihblaze and its card name is attacked. Show up to Soul, choose Vanguard, gets plus 15k for the battle. We've seen something similar in this in Sienna, and I think the reason why I can remember the Sienna one a lot easier compared to this one is because in Sienna, the whole point of the deck was to be defensive. This deck's whole point is not to be defensive, and I think maybe that's just why I forget the skill is there, because it feels like such a random effect on, like, when this is the first effect. But also, like, the fact that the whole point of the deck is to get multiple names in Soul, and literally the only card, once you hit grade 3, that in the entire line of support, that actually soul charges during the main phase is Kotihblaze itself. The only other card that soul charges in general is this, but it has to die, and this, which has to swing. So there's that. Like, other sources of soul charging come from outside of the deck. So Daijura, I wish he sent to soul instead of bot deck it, but A, it's still good, gets numbers, recycle stuff, and is a 15k blocker if I actually remember to use a skill ever. He also does go to soul, so he makes himself a restand target of an extra one. So for Daijura, it's a good grade 1, I just don't use it the way it should be. And we have 4 copies of our PG and Guardian Monk of Raging Flames Mullinju. Grade 1 boost, 0 souls, K base, contains Sentinel. We have 4 Sentinels in deck, and also put on guard, so choose over units. It cannot be hit to battle. And if your hand has 2 more cards in, choose a card from your hand's card to hand PG. Nothing too special about it. Basically, that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard one, which is great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. Spam the hell out of Orlando and Daijura, and then when your opponent counterattacks you because you were super aggressive, throw down this PG. You don't have to discard anything because you already have a low amount of hand cards, and then you're safe from the attack. Our emoji is a very solid PG. You can run any PG you want. You could run Spark Rejector Dragon, you can run Twin Buckler Dragon. I just choose to run Monju because it came out closer to the reveal release of Kotihblaze, but again, any of the PGs work. So 4 of Monju. Then we have the last grade 1 in the deck. 1 of the right deck, none in the main deck of Divine Blaze Ear Sinful. Grade 1 boost, 5 Kashoda K base. Again, a very cute art. I don't know why. I feel like the little deer thing is just so cute to me. Anyways, auto word upon by Flame Severing Dragon Baldurus. Soul Boss 1, check top 7. Choose up to 2 cards with different grades from among them. Reveal them. Choose a grade 3 card from among them. Put it to your hand, and then put the rest into your soul and shuffle the deck. Cool. It is mandatory that if you flip a grade 3 off this, because of the way it's worded, it's not choose up to a grade 3, it is choose a grade 3 from among them. So if you flip the top 7 and you choose to pick a grade 3 from the group, you don't have to pick a grade 3 from the group, but if you do pick a grade 3 is going to go to your soul whether you want it to or not, or goes to your hand whether you want it to or not, which sucks, because say for example, you are trying to fetch a copy of the main grade 3 so you can sub it to soul so you can get the restand. Well, that's not going to happen because thanks to this thing skills, automatically going to force you to add it to your hand because they have to have different grades. You're not going to get a second copy. I hate Sinful for that, but it's still a very solid grade one of those because it can help search Persona Rides. Hell, it could help search this thing, and it gets like your soul stacked up and pretty much everything that you need to. So it's a nice one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, and it's cute, so why not? Then we move on to our grade 2s. 3 copies of Drag Rid Farheart. I think I've told the story enough times, but this thing deserves to be here because it saved my life one time. Grade 2 set 5 Kishio, 10k base. Auto ones put on guard circle from hand or discard from your hand while riding from the ride deck. Counter boss 1 energy blast 3 to draw a card, then auto one placed on rear guard circle Persona with this turn. Counter boss 1 energy blast 3 choose a grade 1 card without Sentinel from your drop zone, call tobacco rear guard circle. Okay. This skill is so useful because the deck can eat away at CB, but there are times where we'll have extra CB, and that's where you can use the draw for, and literally nothing else in the deck uses EB, so you are free reign with that skill just to get a free draw, which again is very helpful when guarding or when discarding, so you know you can help replace for units that are already in soul, or when you need like more guard power when your opponent's trying to rush you down. As for this skill, in the late game, after you've probably like had your board nuked or you're trying to come back from defeat, you can then build your board around what's in your drop zone and use Farheart to call stuff back. So then whatever is in your soul, as long as there's like a grade 1 or less in there, you can use Farheart's skill to call that stuff back, and then they become targets for restand. All-around Farheart is a very solid grade 2, works really well in the late game if you need it to, and is definitely a good card that can keep you consistent throughout the entire game with the free draws. It's a nice 3-up for me. Then we have 3 copies of Soaring, Freedom, Forward, and Revoltus. Grade 2 set 5 Kishio, 10k base, the knight with the gear dragon, so it looks really like Gear Groovy, or not Gear Groovy, what's it called, Gear Next. Auto and placed on rear guard circle from hand other than during your battle phase, so charge 1 and get boost to 5,000 power for that turn. Then by counter bossing 1, you perform one of the following: either choose an opponent's grade 2 or grade 2 rear guard, kill it, or choose a grade 2 less card from your soul, call it to rear guard. Either way, very solid card. It helps increase the souls, so it gives you more targets for Kotihblaze's restand skill, and on top of that, it could either kill your opponent's rear guards, look at that, targets for Orlando, or it could get you a rear guard from soul. Either way, it's a very solid grade 2 to have, even if it does eat away a CB, so it's a nice 3-up for me. Then move on to 4 copies of Drag Ridder Jaden. Weirdly enough, I thought I would like this card more considering the fact that it shares a similar name to myself, and it also has a flaming fucking sword, but you know what, I like this grade 2 more, but we'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, grade 2 set 5 Kishio, 10k base, auto when placed on rear guard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade with Kotihblaze in its card name, counter boss 1, choose an opponent's rear guard, murder it. Then ditch a hand card, choose an opponent's rear guard to kill it. Okay, here's the thing. If you want to use this skill, specifically this half, you have to pay the CB. So like, granted, this thing can kill 2 rear guards in one go if you really are willing to ditch a hand card in CB1, but you are not going to be able to kill rear guard via this cost unless you do it via this cost first, which is so annoying if you're trying to not eat away at CB, since Orlando also costs a CB to call itself out. And I'm just going to go into this right now, there are no counter charges in this deck, but believe it or not, this deck does not have a CB problem, or at least not what I classify as a CB problem. And again, if you haven't heard this story before, I have been locked into decks where I don't really have the ability to counter charge, and CB is literally my only resource I'm allowed to use because of things that happen, and then I just learned how to manage CB regardless. And now, even for me, unless I'm playing a very specific deck, having 1 CB in like CB heavy decks, quote unquote, is not a problem because I know how to manage it in ways that'll still let me win. It's just, it's the type of thing where you get used to it after a while. Either way, there's other effects: auto and retire from rear guard to guard circle. Vanguard's a great 3 guard of Kotihblaze's card name. You may show this card to soul. All around pretty solid. It can send itself back to soul if it's killed during rear guard or guard circle, which is very helpful if you need last minute restand targets and you just so happen to have 2 of these things in hand. Call one, murder it, call the other one right on top of it, send the one that just went to drop zone to soul because it was retired from rear guard technically. Either way though, this is a very solid grade 2. Increases soul count for free, murders rear guards for an arbitrary cost, and can for some reason kill 2 in one go. So all around, Jaden is a very solid grade 2 and I like it a lot, so it's an easy 4 for me. Then we have 4 copies of probably the better of the 2 grade 2s, no offense to Jaden, and that would be Flame, Kickbox, or Tyrant. Grade 2 and set 5 Kishio, 10k base, auto rear guard when it swings into anything. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, Kotihblaze plus 5k for the turn. It can swing into a rear guard, it can swing into a Vanguard, doesn't matter what grade it is, 15k swing. So all around pretty solid for that reason alone, and it gets to keep that power for the turn. So when you restand it, it's going to be a 20k swing, or 25k swing since you're restanding it via Kotihblaze. And this goes auto rear guarding about that this unit attacked to anything. Choose a grade 3 card with Kotihblaze in the card from your ride deck. You may reveal it. Let's go. Ride deck reveals. Let's go. That's my favorite part of this game. And then if you reveal a card, or if your Vanguard's already a grade 3 or greater Kotihblaze, shove it to soul, draw a card. Cool. Helps increase your souls. You have a second copy for next turn. After you soul boss the one up for this turn, you can get it ready for the next turn with a restand. And again, it's not a mandatory skill if you don't want it to be, and is also just a free plus 5k each and every time. All around, Tyrant is a very solid grade 2. I love this thing a lot. I think it's nice for beat stick pressure. It's definitely nice for consistency. It is an amazing grade 2. It is a good solid 4 of. And we have the last grade 2 in the deck, 1 of in the ride deck, 3 of in the main deck, of Flame Severing Dragon Baldurus. Okay, some of y'all are going to call me insane for running this in the main deck. I'm going to tell you this right now. Baldurus, out of all the games I've played, remember, the first few games with Kotihblaze I struggled because I didn't understand how to use it. Out of all of the games I play, I kid you not, this is not me over-exaggerating, Baldurus is the only one I was ever able to consistently restand because I already had a copy in Soul, and I would always somehow draw one before I got to grade 3, meaning I could at least always restand him no matter what, regardless of the situation. So I'm just saying, if you want a safe restand option, make it Baldurus, because he's the only one guaranteed to be in your soul. Anyways, grade 10 5k shield, 10k base. Auto rolled upon by a grade 3 card, Kotihblaze in his card name. Draw a card, and shield to 1 grade 3 as card from your hand. Call it to rear guard circle. If you did not call, choose a card from your hand, discard it. So the only reason you wouldn't use this skill to call is if your entire hand was triggers and PGs, and even then I'm going to try to tell you, you're probably going to call anyways, because no matter what, you're going to lose guard power. You might as well make it so that it goes to board. Like, I don't know why this is like this, but whatever. I feel like it should have just called itself like every other grade 2 does, but fair enough. At least it gets to stay in soul. And then continues rear guard. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard to Kotihblaze, it gets with 5,000 power after one of turns. So 15k, pretty solid, not that big, but again, it's a restand target for Kotihblaze, and 1 copy is always guaranteed to be in soul if you run it in the ride deck. So 1 in the ride deck of Baldurus, 3 in the main deck. Again, even when I wasn't understanding how to play the deck, it was always the consistent restand I would always get. So I do owe Baldurus the ability to be in the main deck. He does actually serve a purpose. Then move on to our grade 3s. 3 copies of Ember Breath Dragon. The only reason he's at 3 is simply because I felt like if I put him at 4, it would come back to bite me in the ass, because I feel like I would draw too many grade 3s, because there are some decks where there's a difference between 7 and 6 main deck grade 3s and 7 main deck grade 3s and 8 main deck grade 3s. That difference typically being your ability to survive. Anyways, Ember Breath, grade 3 to 9% 13k base. You can use rear guard during turn if you have a grade 3 grade Vanguard Kotihblaze card name plus 5k power. So 18k, cool, regardless of what grade your opponent's Vanguard's at, and then act rear guard once per turn. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade Kotihblaze's card name, again, they can be at grade 2. And last one, check the top 3, choose up to 1 card from them, reveal it, call it to rear guard if it is a revealed card and is a grade 2 or less normal unit, put it to your hand if not. So basically, if it's a grade 3 or trigger, then it goes to hand. And then shuffle the deck. At the end of your turn, put this unit to soul. Okay, the reason why I hate this card is because, yes, it gets you rear guard presence, but it should have given you the choice to send the card that you call or the card that you reveal to soul so you can get restand targets. There have been a lot of games where if that was the case, I probably would have won, but it would have made it a lot closer than what it actually was. Not to mention the fact that it doesn't go to soul itself, and considering the fact that this son of a bitch refuses to let you send a grade 3 to soul, then you know, you basically have to waste a turn, call this, send it to soul, and then if you have to have the second copy already in hand, so you're not going to be able to restand this until your Persona Ride turn, which is annoying unless you hit it off of this. But either way, though, Ember Breath is a good grade 3. It does get you rear guard presence. It is an 18k. I just wish it could send itself or whatever it did call to soul instead of actually having to call it, so therefore it could be a more consistent grade 3. But hey, it is what it is. It is a 3 of for that reason, and also because too many grade 3s is a hand gauge, so you know that. And then finally move on to our last grade 3, and that would be 1 of in the ride deck, 3 of in the main deck of Fiery Immolation Dragon Kotihblaze. Grade 3, Twin Drive, Persona Ride, 13k base, act Vanguard once per turn, card boss 1, check the top 5, choose up to 2 grade 3 list cards with different card names from this unit from among them, reveal them, choose up to 1 other revealed cards, call it to rear guard, and put the rest into the soul, shuffle the deck. So again, this is my opinion what this card should have been. It should have been check the top whatever, check the top 3, and then you could choose to play it to soul, or you could choose to call it to rear guard. Sadly, this thing, it can pick the same name, thankfully, which means you could just pick one copy, shove it to soul, pick one copy, call it to rear guard. That actually happens specifically with Baldr's, believe it or not. But then the difference is you can't get itself, which is to limit this busted skill. But anyways, its second skill is auto vanguard. At the end about the attack, perform one of the following. Not a once per turn, so if you did flip the over or you restun him via his own effect, he could do it again. Soul Blast 2, for each of the cards Soul Blaster for this cost, you up to one of your rear guards to incarnate as that card, stand it, and they get plus 5,000 power for the turn. So say, for example, this was in your front row, this was in your front row, and you have both a copy of them in soul. You swung with demolition, you did your drive check, whatever. At the end of that battle, you soul blast out both copies. They both stand, they both get extra 5k. That's pretty much what that says. And then the other skill, soul blast 2 cards with the same name as this unit, and then discard a card from your hand to stand him, and he'll get plus 5,000 power, but he'll lose the drive, which is solid. Except the only way out of all of the Kotihblaze cards to actually get a copy of himself into soul, believe it or not, there are no cards in the Kotihblaze line that can physically get a copy of him into soul. Because the only card that could do it is himself, and again, he has to, you know, pick cards that are different names. This doesn't send anything to soul. Neither does this. Neither does this. This isn't a Kotihblaze card, which is why it's here. This doesn't actually send anything to soul. It just bot decks it. And this literally restricts you from getting a grade 3 to soul. Like, there are no ways to get this into soul without either hard soul charging it or just persona right stacking. Either way, Kotihblaze is a very solid grade 3 though. As for multi-attack pressure, if you can get to the extra vanguard to restand. I mean, either way, 5 attacks, but if you can get to this, that's even better, because that's probably 5 to 8 attacks, depending on how you set it up. And not to mention the fact, rear guard spam and or soul stack. Either way, Kotihblaze is an amazing grade 3. It is a good 3 of, and 1 of in the right deck. And without further ado, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is actually fun to play. It's felt really rewarding to figure out how to play it, because yeah, I don't play every deck consistently, but like there are a lot of decks where, you know, you can kind of just get the grasp of just by like playing it once. Like even if you're not playing it the right way, you're playing it to where it feels comfortable. This is not one of those decks I felt comfortable playing with when I first played it. It felt like really wonky and weird. And then after like one match, and specifically after I learned that Jaden could send himself to soul, even though I only used that skill like once or twice afterwards, the deck somehow just felt a lot more consistent, knowing that I had more ways to get stuff to soul, and I was less worried, and then I guess that just turned into the deck actually working properly. So it's fun to play. I definitely suggest trying it out. It is a good deck option. So without further ado, I'm going to this one here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join for Twitch. I'll see you all on this one. Just set up your vanguards.